It seems Ghanaians have come to accept that no matter the spelling of any political party, be it the National Patriotic Party or the National Democratic Congress, these political parties are not different. It's just different spellings, but their performance are basically the same. These two political parties have governed the country just before I was born, but since then, there haven't been any differences in the livelihood of every single citizenry. Few have benefited from these parties, but the majority or the chunk of the Ghanaians seem to be suffering from their leadership. Just yesterday, there was a massive investigative piece put out by investigative journalist Manasseh Awuni Azure. This piece was titled Contracts for Sale. And these contracts were basically government contracts. It is not the first of its kind that we are having in the country. In the erstwhile administration led by John Mahama, we saw similar things, so many of them. And we decided to go for change when they asked us to change so that they would change the style of leadership of the country and the style of livelihood of the citizenry. But it seems the story continued to be the same. Is it the attitude of Ghanaians or is the failure of these two political parties to govern the country in the interest of the country and not that of the private gain, like the current president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, said in his message prior to the 2016 elections when he said Ghana was in crisis, the nation was in crisis, and he was committed to govern the country in the interest of Ghanaians and not for private gain. Today in the studio, we are asking the question, is it the citizens who are corrupt, or is it the parties that are corrupt? Which political colors, no matter the one you wear, is corrupt? NDC and NPP, these two parties, which one is more corrupt? In the studio with me to do the discussion is Mustafa Nete, who is a political analyst, and also he speaks for the NDC. And seated next to him is Jesse Boakun, who also speaks for the NPP. And I'll be starting with him first because yesterday the expose, or should I say, the investigative piece that was put out there was put out and it was pointed directly towards the CEO of the PPA, Mr. Ajenim Boateng. Ajay.
Yes.
Yeah,
good evening to our lovely viewers. Good evening to Mustafa as well. Yeah. The issue at hand, Anas Arimia, Anas and Manasseh Azuri have been investigative journalists since time immemorial. So now let's look at what happened. There was a documentary by Manasseh Azuri yesterday titled Contract for Sale. It is true that the CEO of Public Procurement Authority, Mr. Ajenim Boateng, yes, has sold some contracts to unknown people who doesn't deserve those things. Even the processes, even let's look at how contract is being awarded in this country. According to Ajenim Boateng, most of the contract wasn't competitive tendering. It was strictly unrestricted tendering. So you could imagine some of the things that goes on before those contracts are given to these people. When you look at the Public Procurement Act 2006, Act 663, it talks about the power. It talks about how you award contract, whether the person deserves, where you talk about the financial base of even the company, whether the company is ready to
pre-finance some of the activities.
Exactly. Even apart from the pre-finance, they look at your success story, whether you've been in that position before, assuming you've been given a road contract, let's say around Laboni here. Yes, they need to look at your documentation, whether the work that you've done previously, previously does it qualify you to even do the work. And some of these stories is quite disturbing. You could agree with me that the NPP government is on top of issue. When we came into government, when you are talking about governance, we inherit an economy of 3.1 and now the GDP growth rate is 8.4. Even when you look at the significant figures and the improvement in the economy and such bad news, you know, it gives the government a bad name. Let me commend the government, the president of our land, for coming out boldly and for suspending Ejenim Boateng. There was a communique this morning, which was signed by the Director of Communication, Eugene Ayin. We stated clearly that the investigation has started, whereby the citizen vigilante, Martin Amidu, has also stepped in to make sure that the right thing is done.
Is the presidency that actually directed the special prosecutors to take action, encouraged you to take some action against it? They should investigate it.
Exactly. The investigation has started. Okay, the office of the president will investigate. Martin Amidu will take over.
I'm coming back to you to ask you follow-up questions on investigations, because we've had stories of how these things should be investigated. At the end, the president has now been termed a clearing agent. But Mustafa,
I disagree when you say the president is a clearing agent.
People have now termed the president as a clearing agent.
Well, but that statement is false.
Well,
it's false.
But before
because
that,
there are instances. Let me give you a typical example. When the issue of A+ and Abu Jinapo and Asensu came in, you know what happened? They passed through the processes. Iyoko came in, the police BNI came in. At the end of the day, it wasn't the president who cleared these people.
But the documents clearing them are not yet public. No one knows what went on behind the scenes. Mustafa, I'll come back to you.
Very well.
But Mustafa, first of all, what do you make of this current government leading Ghanaians? We thought, or should I say, Ghanaians believed that they were changing for the better, but it seems that just the same calabash we decided to divide into two.
Muftau, let me greet my brother and yourself.
Thank you.
You see, now what is happening in town is that people are saying that the NPP, especially the appointees of NPP, came into power on a tabula blanc to enrich themselves. A tabula blanc simply means they were giving clean slate, a fresh slate for them to enrich themselves. That is why today, every single day when you wake up, we are faced with one corruption issue or the other. This particular issue that we are faced with today, stinks, really very pungent, is an eyesore. You know, the very day, yesterday when I watched it, I was shocked. But then I came to my realization and said to myself that, look, we have faced many of these situations, and what happens is exactly your word you said. The president is going to clear off all allegation against Mr. Ejenim Boateng. But I'm happy. The narrative is different today. You see, let me tell you something what happened today. Actually, before this investigation commenced, there have been collaborations all along. So as we speak, not that the special prosecutor doesn't know about it. If you heard about his comment after the show, you will realize that he has a foreknowledge of the investigation. Now, if you have listened to Manasseh when he was talking about, he was giving his own impression about what the government has done and what President Akufo-Addo has done. He said, look, he's expecting two things. First, Mr. Ejenim Boateng to go out of that position, because if you look at the drawings, if you look at the machinations, if you look at what is happening at the PPA, you cannot have any decision than to have himself recused from that position so that the investigation takes place. Now, before he started all of these things, he has some collaborations with the police, some collaborations with the special prosecutor and other investigative bodies. So now, President and the government are entangled to do what is right.
But these people were not mentioned. He only mentioned the Ghana Integrity Initiative and Media Foundation for West Africa. He never mentioned them as people who collaborated in the work done.
I'm telling you, it's for security purposes. Those things do not come out.
But Anas often mentions that I did this work in collaboration with the CID. So why wouldn't Manasseh also be saying?
But I'm telling you, it will not come out simply because, you know, special prosecutor is only to prosecute.
Yes.
And you cannot be seen to be working with special prosecutor to do such a thing. You understand?
But the special prosecutor...
The special prosecutor would have to act on an investigation with clear evidence.
Let's not forget, when he appeared before the select committee that were investigating him, he he has to collaborate with all these investigative bodies to get his work done.
Exactly.
But that is not in the public domain until an investigation has been carried out.
No, these are public documents.
No,
sorry,
but I'm saying...
Sorry to chip in.
But I'm telling you, you see, investigations of this nature, what happens is that it goes on the quiet with all the relevant institutions. After it has been done, before
but do
all
you
these
think,
things come
Mustafa,
up.
do you think that at a point where, especially if you go through the documentary piece put out by Manasseh, even as recent as 16th of August, how he secured some of these documents. Today is 22nd, just 6 days ago that he secured some of those documents.
Yeah, he said he only used 2 months to carry out the whole
and
investigation.
That's what I'm saying. So are you saying that people couldn't have given a gist out to Mr. Ajenim Boateng for him to know that Manasseh seated before you, questioning you, have some evidences about you, especially where he mentioned that I've read a story where the name of your wife is Mercy Ajenim Boateng, and where he took him to the corner and asked him, the shareholders of the company, and he said it is his cousin. He mentioned it again and he said, no, it is my brother-in-law.
You see, he could not have done that because, like I told you, everything that happened was undercover. You understand? He first set out to investigate a road which was supposed to have been, you know, the contract has been given already, which is about 22 million Ghana cedis, which was to commence work in the Talensi district.
Yes.
Now, he found out that there's a company... Willinsey or Talensi here. He found out that, in fact, nothing has been done. The contract lead to the TLD as we speak. Now he needed to find out who are the faces behind the TDL.
Talent Discovery Limited.
Yes. And then, lo and behold, when he got to... The project itself was okayed by PPA. You understand? Yeah. So he needed to know whether really PPA has allowed or has given contracts of that nature.
But Mr. Ajenim Boateng denied.
Yeah, he denied, but he later confirmed because he said, no. Do you know about TDL? He said, yes, I know about it. Do you know the composition of that company? He said, no. And then, do you know about the shareholders? He said, he cannot talk about it. And then later, he
refused to mention the name of his cousin. But let me come to Bwako.
Sure.
In all this, people say that there was no need for even Ghanaians to hand power to the MPP if you were coming not to do something different from what the NDC were doing. Because I can mention a plethora of investigative work that was done by the same Manasseh, the Sada, the Jida, the Ford, all these people. But we said these people were very corrupt. And now we've brought you, Ajako is fired. He's no longer anywhere to be fired for allegedly advising the president wrongly. We had the Australia scandal. We had this Galamsey work by Anas Almeyaw Anas. We have this current one before us. So what is the difference between the MPP and the NDC?
You know, there is a big difference between MPP and NDC. You know, when we talk about MPP, New Patriotic Party, I mean, we are there for the ordinary people, okay? We bring policies that will help the ordinary citizens, not to favor the rich or not to favor a certain class of people. That is the difference. And we make sure...
But you're also corrupt.
No, we are not. We are not. I'm coming there.
Policies,
I'm coming there.
So let's deal with the corruption issue.
Let me land. Okay, you mentioned something here about the Australia issue.
Yes.
I think the Australians came out, Australia Embassy, they came out clearly and they realized all Okujato Ablaka was saying was totally false. It was true.
Do you know why interesting thing? Do you know why
It's interesting.
I was one of the few first Ghanaian journalists to break the story that the deputy sports minister was cleared. And I can tell you vividly, which was on June 29, I reported that story.
Okay.
And about a week or two later, the president went and mentioned it. Imagine a journalist getting the gist 2 weeks before the president mentioned anything. He has been cleared.
You know, sometimes I won't doubt what you are saying. The honest truth is that, you know, we are working with human beings. So definitely there will be leak of information here and there. With this kind of thing that you are saying, that the MPP and NDC, I totally disagree. Okay, look at the policies that we've even brought. just next month, the free SHS policy is going to. No, I'm coming. Let me land.
But we are taking the conversation to a different place. We are talking about how different is the MPP.
I understand.
From the NDC.
Yes,
if you're talking about policy.
In terms of dealing with corruption.
I'm coming. I'll give you instances. Okay. I'm giving you what we've done so far.
Okay.
Sector by sector. Okay. Then I'll come to the corruption.
So those things you do means that you're not corrupt, isn't it?
MPP is not corrupt. It is not corrupt.
You know what?
We were in this country. We saw what happened previously under the NDC government.
And
we were here when the Brazil issue came up.
Yes.
You remember when the Jamefe commission was set up?
Yes.
The members involved, those that we are accusing, were raised to the highest office of the land. Okay. You were a journalist.
Yes.
You know that is true.
I know.
So what happened thereafter?
So that's what I'm saying. There's no difference between you and the other people.
No. There is a difference when it comes to corruption cases.
We need to go for break and come back.
I know. That is why the MPP government has taken a bold step in suspending Ejenim Boateng.
Suspension has become a norm.
But there will be investigation thereafter. It is not just a normal suspension.
On this note of investigation, let me read some comments that have been coming in from our viewers. And let me take the first one. That came from Benny Tandra. She says, both of them, none can be trusted, period. #Kwesefeed. And this one, Abrantier, he says that the NDC shouldn't think we've forgotten about their corrupted and dubious things when they were in power. The two are corrupt. And this one from TJ, he says that it is not a matter of MPP or NDC. Put the party color aside and see to it as they are Ghanaians. Ghana is bleeding and nobody seems to care. Is this how we develop a country with the egoistic, selfish type of leaders we have in Ghana? He's asking a question. And Edu Enoch, he says, still NDC has a Kwesefeed. And Nana AC, she says that both parties are corrupt. We go for a break. When we come back, we still have more to talk here. Mr. Jesse Boako is here to answer the question about the differences between the MPP and the NDC. Are they all corrupt? We'll be back in a jiffy, and he will be answering that question for us. Welcome back from the break. This is the feed on Kwesa TV with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. We've been talking about the differences between the ruling parties we have in the country, the MPP and the NDC. Which of them is corruption? The word corruption is, I feel very uncomfortable mentioning it because we've handed power to these people to lead us, to make everyone a successful being in the country. But these two political parties, we seem not to know the differences. It's just a different spelling of their political names or party names, but their actions and inactions seem to be nearly the same. Before I come to the studio, let me pick some comments that have been coming in from my viewers. And Lupe Foley, he says that the MPP, and this one from King Lao, are you Japanese or... And he said it as an artwork. He said, after 15 years in prison for theft, what do you think of doing to live a responsible life if you are released today? This is a gentleman in court. He said, that's simple, Judge. I wish to become a politician because in politics, stealing is legal. That's very interesting to know. And then this one, Auru Sani Abacha, he says, MPP is more corrupt than the word corrupt. And then this one from British man, he said, Kwesa TV, why is your... I'll provide you that answer. There was a text message sent out on the 29th of July indicating that the Kwesa channels are going to be off. So if you did not get that text message, apologies. That text message was sent out to all customers. And this one from Maxwell Kofi Latte, he says, Masa, it's clear MPP is more than... Okay, you disagree? Okay.
Some of these comments are funny. You agree with me? For the first time in the history of this country, that a journalist, an investigative journalist, has commended government for the action being taken. Tonight, there have been a response from Azuri,
yes.
from Manasseh. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've read it.
Yes, the swift response by the President Akufo-Addo to contract for sale is very commendable. The suspension and refer to the case
what
of
is
SAD
it
and
as-
OSP
what has
are
been
very
commendable?
appropriate. Let's hope the state investigative bodies give the characters, the documentary, a fair hearing. And that is the process that we've started. The special prosecutor...
You see, I don't want to go there.
No,
I don't want to go there.
You
because
can go there
if
so
I'm
that
to
we
go
can,
there, I will start from April 2018. The president of the country suspended the board chair of the National Sports Authority. He suspended his deputy sports minister, Pius Ndc. I can tell you on authority, on April 5, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Isaac Esiama, sent a memo to the president. It was that memo that led to the suspension of the deputy sports minister, Pius Ndc. And you know what, interestingly, in the course of the investigations, as well as investigations went on or not, all these people have been cleared. The president, at the MPP elections to vote their chairman, right? If I'm right.
And that was the National Congress.
The National Congress.
Yes.
The president said the CID or the investigative bodies have cleared them. There's no document to back this. It's a theoretical clearing. Is there any document from the CID saying that following our investigations, we had ABC clearing Mr. ABC?
With the issue of Pius Ndc, we were in this country when the investigative bodies took
Who
over.
were the investigative bodies?
Oh, Iyoko was in the police, the police CID was in. I remember, yes.
Almost
Iyoko.
So they all cleared him.
Iyoko
No,
was
I'm
not
coming,
part
I'm coming,
of the
please,
investigative body. It was
please,
not part of
I'm
it.
coming.
Hold
I'm
on,
coming.
let
I'm
me make
coming.
his point.
I'm coming. The point is that it wasn't the president who cleared these people. There was a thorough investigation. And at the end of the day, they realized there is nothing truth in what is circulating around. You know, we live in the era of fake news because of political point, whereby your political opponent can just spew anything in the public domain just to make noise and get sympathy from the ordinary citizens.
Let me go to Mustafa. But after this document, after this show, I'm going to present you a document that was that we got from the GOC. I'm presenting that document to you. But Mustafa, he's talking about how this current government is taking action against people who are found to be violating their offices. In your era or in your administration, you were worse off. People would say.
Let me give you a plethora of corruption cases which were dealt by Mahama. In fact, it was only a perception. It was only the fact that people were conceiving that. You remember Victoria Hammer?
Yes.
Just for the fact that she says that by the time she leaves office, she'll be $1 million.
Yes, and it was true.
It
was true.
No, she lost her job. She was fired. She was not suspended.
It was true.
Just by the fact...
It wasn't just an allegation, but it was true.
But the woman was fired. That's the point. She was not suspended.
So make your point.
So she was fired. She was nowhere around any government department.
She's nowhere to be
She's nowhere to be found.
Oh, she's at Brown I think.
She's gone into obscurity when it comes to politics. So let him make his point.
MP or something.
Of course. She's what?
No, you say you don't know the whereabouts.
No. I didn't say no. I didn't say
you don't know the whereabouts.
No. I said she was nowhere about any government department, agency, or ministry.
And you ended up with that.
I didn't say that.
You said that.
Again, you remember when Manasseh came out with the JIDA and the JIDA issue?
The SADA and all that.
SADA, yes. Abuga Pele was dealt with it.
Now, that's your wrapping up comment. Please wrap it up for me.
You've not been fair with me.
So please, wrap up.
So all of these things were dealt with. You remember, there was this particular case that was sent to the CID, the maritime issue, which the CID people cleared him. You understand? Yeah. Now the special prosecutor said, look, no, you don't have jurisdiction. I am going there to prosecute, to investigate this matter. You understand? It is actually the CID which this government has used to clear all the corruption allegations that have been leveled against this government. You understand? And for that matter, the special prosecutor says, look, I will not allow these things to happen. And that is why Manasseh was so smart to say that, look, before I go into this particular matter, I'm going to collaborate with all of these people so that when there is anything fishy, these people would come out to say all of it.
Okay, a pleasure for making that comment. Unfortunately, I cannot come back to you. We've run out of time.
Final comment.
No, we've run out of time.
No,
please.
he said something on the maritime issue. Let me give you just a brief statistics.
30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, in 2016, the Ghana Maritime Authority made a revenue of 60.
Oh, but is that what we are talking about?
No.
Is that what you are talking about?
No, you said something.
Look, the fact that you look. The fact that the fact that
put out there was totally false.
The fact that the man was making profit. That doesn't mean that he should not be.
I appreciate the input by my guest here in the studio, Mustafa Nete, who is with the NDC, and Jesse Boako, who is also with the MPP. Thanks very much for your time here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. This has been The Feed.